am the compliance manager here at Global.
And I'm Mallory Wessner. I'm one of the Educator Success Coaches.
And we are going to do a little presentation for you about compliance and conduct. Compliance can be a little dry, but it is important. So stay with me. We'll get some interactive things going. So I'll be doing the first half about compliance, and then Mallory's going to be doing a little bit more about like your classroom environment, conduct in the classroom. And then we'll be doing some group things and having a group discussion, so we'll get there together. Okay, by the end of this session, you will be able to protect your visa status, very important, and your professional standing as an educator, understand U.S. expectations for teacher conduct, and recognize legal and cultural norms around boundaries and safety. Why does it matter? Well, you want to maintain your visa and your position in the program, obviously. You want to protect yourself from legal or any professional risk. You want to protect your students, and you want to build a safe, respectful classroom and school culture. So part one, we're going to talk a little bit about compliance as it relates to your J-1 visa. So you all know that the J-1 visa is a 3-year visa, and then you can renew it for 2 years if you would like to continue to stay in the U.S. And it is our responsibility, Global's responsibility, to make sure you are doing a good job, which we know you will, and that you are performing all your teaching responsibilities and performing responsibilities of the program, so like those cross-cultural requirements. And you will get a lot more information about those required cross-cultural projects in the future. Outside employment. So we get a lot of questions about, can I get an outside job like during the summer? You have to be paid through your school district. So you can do coaching a sport, you can do summer school if that's available in your school district, you can do paid tutoring through your school district, but like I said, the pay has to come through your school district. So like getting a side gig at Target or Starbucks or something is actually not allowed, because the purpose of the program is supposed to be for cultural exchange and not for financial well-being. I mean, we want you to be financially well, but you're not supposed to have multiple jobs while you're here. You're supposed to just be focused. Absences. So just really quick about absences. If you are absent from school for 5 days or more, please let us know. We want to make sure that you're safe and you're healthy, and it's scary for us to not know if you all are safe because we care about you. So let us know if you are absent. If you need help, let us know what's going on. Also, that could also include like if you're suspended, like something happened at your school and you have to be home because you're suspended. That's also important for us to know. Okay, the 2-year home residency requirement, or what's called 212E. So this is the rule that means that you have to, at the end of your 5 years on the program, you have to return to your last legal place of residence for at least 2 years before doing the program again. So for most of you, that rule does apply. However, on your visa, it'll tell you if you have to follow that rule or not. So it'll say like, does have to follow 212E or something like that. So if you're unsure it is on your visa, you can check that. So this is part of the Global Educator Agreement that you all signed. So Global can end or terminate a J-1 visa holder status at any time without prior notice if we determine that you're seeking or obtaining any immigration status other than the valid J-1 status. So that means if you tell us you're trying to get a green card, or you're trying to get a waiver to get like an H-1B or something, that means that you are no longer trying to fulfill the J program, and so we can end your program early. So we don't want to do that. So make sure that you are not looking for other ways to stay in the US past the 5 years that you're here. And also, if you have any questions about other visas, don't ask us. We can give you guidance and information about the J visa. We're not able to give you any guidance or information about how to get other visas. Okay, the 6-week preparation period. So if you have dependents, so a spouse or children, then you know what this whole 6-week preparation period is. So we permit dependents to come join you after 6 weeks. We want to make sure that you are fully set up Things are ready to go for your family members to come join you. We don't want them to be adding additional stress to your lives. There's already so much that needs to be set up when you're here. However, we would consider your dependents ready to come join you if they have, or if you all have secured your social security card, if you have purchased a car, and if you are self-sufficient. So that means you're no longer relying on your transitional advisor or your TA. So if you have fulfilled those 3 things, then we would consider your dependents ready to join you. Once your dependents are coming to the US, please give us a 2-week heads up so that we can make sure that they get enrolled in proper health care. That is a rule of the program that they have to be on health insurance. So let us know so that we can help you get them all set up. And please give us the travel itinerary. So like their flight, when they're gonna come into the US, because we have to make sure the day of that they are covered with that health insurance. And if you fail to comply with those regulations, the risk could be your J2 dependents being sent home at your expense or your visa status being jeopardized, which of course we don't want to do. So please just make sure you let us know when your J2 dependents are coming to the US. Notifications. Global monitors all J1 and J2 visa holders' arrivals into the US through CVIS. And again, that's to make sure that we have you on health insurance starting from the first day that you're here, because that is a State Department regulation. Okay, J2 visa information. So a lot of this is very similar to the J1 visa, but the J2 dependent visa is tied to your J1 visa. J2 visa holders have to follow the same sorts of rules and regulations that you as the J1 visa holder have to follow. J2 dependents cannot travel to the US before the J1 gets here. J2 dependents have to leave the US at the conclusion of the J1's program, so they can't stay here after you leave. And J2 dependents have to reside with the J1 visa holder for the duration of the program. So there's 2 situations that could come up that may be an issue. I'm seeing wide eyes over there, so I don't know if you have a specific situation in mind, but so there's 2 situations. So one is, okay, what if me and my spouse are not getting along so well and we're not living together? Technically, you are supposed to reside with your spouse the entire time. So if you are legally separated, like you have documentation showing like, this isn't working, let us know so that we can end their program early if that's something you'd like to do. You don't have to give us all the details, but we do need documentation to kick them off the program for you. So the other situation that kind of comes up sometimes is if you have a child who's college age and they want to go to a university or college here, that's great, we encourage that. However, they still have to live with you. So they can't be living on campus, they can't be like going to school in California while you're here in North Carolina. So that is also something to take into consideration. Yeah. Talk a little bit more about J2 visa compliance. J2 dependent children actually only qualify for the program until they turn 21, and then they consider aging out of the program. So we get a reminder in CVIS of when they're about to turn 21, and so we will reach out to you and let you know what the next steps are. Most likely they go home, or if they're here and studying at a college or university, sometimes they can transition over to a different visa type. So we would be in touch with you about that. If you would like to add or remove any dependents, you can reach out to that educators@globalteachingpartners.com email address. And don't forget to bring vaccination records for your dependents. If you have like a spouse who's coming later and you forgot to bring them, tell them to bring those vaccination records. And also if you have children, make sure you bring like their grades and their transcripts, and that helps them get into school here and get all set up. Okay, work authorization for J2s. There's also always a lot of questions about this one. So if you have a J2 who would like to work in the US, they have to submit what's called an I-765 work authorization form. J2 visa holders are not permitted to work without submission and approval of that work authorization form. And they can only submit that form after they're in the US, which kind of stinks because it would be nice if you could do it in your home country so that by the time they arrive here, they're ready to work. But unfortunately, that's not how it works. They have to be here to apply, get it approved. And There's also the option to submit an application for a Social Security card when they complete the I-796 work authorization form. The cost is expensive. It is $470 if done online. And it says the estimated processing time is 3 to 4 months. However, I've been seeing online that it's taking a little bit longer, so it's more like 4 or 5 months. So 3 months if you're lucky, but don't be surprised if it takes a little longer, because the government is slow sometimes. Okay. Like Becca said, this is all going to be sent to you, so if you're like, I'm not going to remember all this, that's okay. So when your J2 visa holder is completing their I-765 work authorization form, they're going to want to choose the J2 spouse or minor child of an exchange visitor, C5 option, that's important. And also something important to remember is that when the J2 visa holder is requesting permission to work in the US, the reason should be cultural experience, skill development. It's not supposed to be to financially support the J1. Even though we all know that, obviously, people need to work to be financially stable, but that's not supposed to be the reason that goes on the form. Okay, worker protections in the US. So all of us, every single one of us, are protected under the Equal Employment Opportunity EEO Act, specifically Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. So that protects employees from discrimination based on race, sex, age, or national origin, and it protects employees with disabilities. So if you are working in your school and you notice that someone's discriminating against you in any way, obviously let Global know what's going on, but also you can reach out to the HR department at your school or school district, and they can assist you with that, but we are all protected under this law. Okay, traveling internationally. So we encourage you to travel internationally if that's something you want to do, and domestically if you want to travel throughout the US, that's awesome. You just have to make sure that you have the proper documentation to do so. So when you checked in this morning, almost all of you brought your DS 2019 that Mindy Duncan and I signed for you. So that means now that that's signed, you are free to travel internationally for the next year. So that signature of today is good for 1 year. You also want to make sure, obviously, that your passport is not going to expire. So you want to make sure you have at least 6 months left on your passport when you're traveling internationally. And you want to bring your visa, of course. And it's your responsibility to make sure that that travel validation section is up to date. So if it's a year and a half from now and you're like, oh, I'm traveling home in a week. Oh no, my DS 2019 has expired, that signature. I have to get it signed. Luckily, you all, for the most part, live very close. You could just come by our office and we could sign it for you. Or you could mail it to us if you have time to do that. And we can sign it and return it to you. But that is something that you need to keep in mind, that has to be up to date. If you lose or damage your DS 2019, let us know, so we can fix it for you and get you a new one. It's not a huge deal, but we do want to make sure that you're covered. This is a State Department rule, not necessarily a global rule, but if you have any changes to your address, your phone number, your email address, please let Global know within 10 days because we are required to update it in CBIS. So that's also something you can reach out to that educator's account and let us know. Incident reports. Whew, okay. This is a little heavy, so I'm going to go through it and try to keep it light, but it does get a little heavy because we're going to be talking about what are all the worst things that could possibly happen. So that's what I'm going to be going over. So it is my responsibility, and Mindy, she helps out a whole lot with incident reports, to write every possible incident report that falls under these categories that we're going to go over and submit it to the State Department. Just to be clear, just because you are included in an incident report or you have an incident report written about you, that doesn't mean necessarily anything bad for you. The purpose of the incident report is to keep the State Department informed about what's going on with our teachers, and mainly they want to see how Global is supporting you. So if you're in a car accident or something, that's an incident report because they want to see how is Global supporting you and answering your questions, helping with insurance if you need all that. So just want you to know, if you're in an incident report, don't freak out. Okay, so like I said, it gets a little heavy, it gets a little dark, but I do have to go over the categories of when should I report to Global? What qualifies for an incident report. So number 1, exchange visitor death. Obviously, we would need to know about that. Number 2, exchange visitor missing, absconder, or overstay. So that's like if you just run away to a different state and you just don't teach. That would obviously be a big deal. Number 3, incident involving the criminal justice system. So if you receive a ticket, or you're arrested, or you're in a car accident, anything where there's like paperwork from a police officer, we would need to know that to write an incident report. Sexually related incident or abuse. Incident involving Child Protective Services, or also known as CPS here. Serious medical issues, so like a cancer diagnosis, surgery, any condition requiring hospitalization of 48 hours or more. Let us know for sure, because obviously we want to support you and we have to write that incident report. 7, serious mental health concerns, so like suicidal ideation, eating disorder, self-harm, psychiatric hold, or like an early program end due to mental health concerns. Number 8, serious behavioral problems. So if you have like an issue with substance abuse, bullying, harassment. Number 9, unsuitable working conditions. So if you are experiencing a hostile work environment, workplace bullying, sexual harassment, discrimination, please let us know, because that is unacceptable and we are here to support you. And we need to make sure that you are not in that situation anymore. 10, employment and contract issues. So if there's something weird with your contract where you're like, I'm not supposed to be doing this, or you're working less than 32 hours a week, or you're teaching something you're not licensed in, let us know. 11, public safety incident or natural disaster. So if there's like a fire in the area, a flood, that's something we need to know. Hurricane, yes, hurricanes do come through here. 12, actual or potential negative press. So if there is like a negative news story about you that we should be aware of, let us know. I'm only expecting positive things for you guys. 13, foreign government involvement. 14, fraud. So if there's like visa, immigration, or financial fraud or scam, if you are scammed, let us know. 15, lost or stolen immigration documents. So that would be a lost or stolen passport or visa, or if your DS-2019 is stolen, let us know. Sponsor violations, so like if Global Teaching Partners does something wrong, call us out so we can write an incident report. 17, litigations or lawsuits or other legal actions. So if you're involved in a lawsuit or something that would bring bad publicity to you or the program, good to know. So that's all 17 different categories of the incident report thing. So if you find yourself in any of those situations, please reach out so that we can take care of that. I am the one who writes most of them, so you could write them to me directly. Mindy also does a lot, like I said, you could write them to her. Or if it's something personal and you're like, I don't really want to talk to Mandy about that, that's okay. You might have a closer relationship with like a coach or a TA or something. You can talk to them and they can pass it on to me. That's okay too. Okay, so that was all of my compliance information. I'm going to take a 1-minute break to see if you all have any questions before passing the mic over to Mallory. Any questions about any of that before we move on to Mallory's part?
All right, let's keep going. We're going to talk more about the specifics of school and conduct in school. If you have questions about your passport and visas and all that, we can look at them with you and talk it out with you later on. Okay, so let's talk about code of conduct at your school. We all have heard the words code of conduct before. Code of conduct is a set of norms outlining your responsibilities, your expectations, and proper practices and ethics for you in your building. And as a teacher, your code of conduct is higher than the average job, right? You are an example to your students. So you have some expectations and you are an example to others. So here are some of the key ethical principles for teachers in the United States. Starting off, integrity and honesty, being honest with your coworkers, being honest with your students and with their families. Confidentiality, so you are going to have a lot of important paperwork and information about your students in your hands and on your computers. So making sure that you're responsible and keeping that confidential and not just sharing it with anyone. fairness and equity. So no matter what students are in your classroom, what setbacks they have, what limits, what challenges they may have, they all have an equal access to education in your room. Cultural sensitivity. So you will have students from lots of different cultures and backgrounds in your classroom, and making sure that they all feel safe and important and noticed in your class. Having appropriate professional boundaries, we'll dig into that a little bit. And then commitment to student welfare, that you want the best for your students, you want them to thrive. Here are some key ethical principles. These are state or federal laws. So first, what Nathan mentioned, marijuana is illegal in North Carolina. Open containers of alcohol are not allowed in vehicles. That's a big no-no. Weapons are prohibited on school campuses and school grounds, even in school or in parking lots in your vehicles. Bribing police officers, not allowed. So if you were to get pulled over, not trying to bribe them, you are just following what they say. We'll actually dig into this a little bit later on. But yeah, just follow what they have to say and then talk to your coach or one of us and we'll help you out afterwards. As far as driving 15 miles per hour over the speed limit or 80 miles per hour over that are both class 3 misdemeanors, which is a criminal offense. So that could lead to your license being suspended. So you need to be really careful about just follow the rules as far as getting to school and getting where you need to go on time. Also making sure that you pay really close attention to school zones when you're driving. There'll be signs that say you're entering a school zone and you'll need to slow down, or also construction zones. Okay, so following school policies. The first place where you should start is just to get your school's handbook. Ask your principal or administrator for a handbook, and then you could just start digging into it and ask questions. Kind of like Amy said, a lot of times people don't know what you don't know. So feel free to ask questions, seek help. Ask them to explain some things if you don't understand. Don't be afraid to ask. So it will probably mention your dress and the guidelines for that, but make sure that you're setting the standard in your classroom, dress professionally. Checking school email. We will talk about setting boundaries and setting times where you're not checking your email to take care of yourself, but during the school day, you will need to be checking it pretty consistently. So set some times during the day where you check in to your email. That might be when your students go to specials or quickly during lunch for a couple of minutes. Set those times because you might get some important emails, especially from parents that might pertain to that afternoon. Like my student usually rides the bus, but not today. And if you don't check it, then you might be the only person who got that information. So check your email as often as you can during school hours. It might be a little bit different for you if you haven't done that in the past. It takes a little getting used to teaching and checking email at the same time, but we know that you can all multitask pretty well. All right. Adhering to curriculum guidelines, you will have people at your school to help you and teach you about the curriculum, making sure you're sticking to it, and being in compliance with the protocols of exceptional children. So you will have students in your classroom with special needs that have some paperwork that goes along with it. So someone will hopefully set up a meeting with you and explain what that student needs in particular to succeed, and stick to what that paperwork says and ask questions again. And then if you have any discipline-related incidents with students while they're in your room, make sure to document that. All right. Required meetings. So Amy mentioned, you didn't see the email, so you missed the meeting. Make sure to check those emails so you know about meetings. Set them in your calendar to remind you. In the beginning, it's going to feel like a lot of meetings. Community or PLC, which is your learning community. You may have staff meetings. You may have a mentor or a buddy teacher that you need to set up meetings with. It's going to be a lot at first, but make sure to attend them all and be present, ask questions. Next, being on time for school, of course. So you can find out what time you need to be there, probably a little bit before the students arrive. Reporting absences and tardiness so that they can get you a substitute or fill in. Completing all assigned duties. Okay, this one's important. You may be assigned extra duties beyond teaching in your classroom. So Perhaps you will be welcoming students when they get off the school bus. Or maybe they will have you in the cafeteria a couple of days a week, wiping down a couple of tables. These are standard things in the United States. It's pretty normal. So just be open to those extra duties. They'll explain them to you, and they will be fair, so they often will rotate which teacher does what, and you can ask questions about that. Never leaving students unattended. So if you need to go to the bathroom or you need to quickly grab some papers off of the photocopier, ask another teacher to watch your class while you're gone. And accepting constructive criticism with grace. You all are excellent educators. I think that you all had to watch a video from Tanique Pear. She is one of the teachers that I worked with last year. It was in the Talent LMS videos. She spoke at the end and she talked about how you are all great teachers, you're just learning something new. So show yourself grace and don't take it too hard if criticism is given to you, because you're just learning. Okay, another not so fun thing is being a mandated reporter. So as a public school educator, you are a mandated reporter. That means you're required by law. If you can tell or suspect that a student is being abused or neglected at home, then you need to report that to someone at your school. You can read here about definitions of an abused or neglected child. If a student gives you confidential information about feeling unsafe at home or a family member that is mistreating them, you have a duty to report that. You can listen, tell them thank you, and I am glad I can be a safe person for you, but I can't keep a secret. I need to pass that along to my guidance counselor or someone at your school, just to make sure that they're being taken care of. All right, emotional boundaries. So, avoid oversharing or forming overly personal bonds with students. We know we want you to get to know your students, we want them to get to know you and know your fun personalities and the special things about you, but there's a line, you know, we need to keep that line between teachers and students very clear. Not accepting gifts that could be perceived as favoritism. So there's one thing, there's like Valentine's gifts or teacher appreciation gifts, little things like that, but if it's over the line, you can kind of tell like that's to try to get a better grade or something like that, and that's something you can't accept. And then just knowing the boundaries of all the information that you will possess about your students and being very private about that. Not posting student grades up on the screen so everyone can see that one student got a D or got a 60 on their grades. You need to be very private about that. We don't want to humiliate or embarrass our students. Physical boundaries. We get questions about this sometimes. So physical contact with students isn't appropriate, and never use physical punishment or force. That's obviously a no-no in the United States. But then, yeah, just be considerate of your physical space that you're taking up when you're in a classroom, with your leaning over and pointing and just getting in a student's space and making them feel uncomfortable. Just be super extra careful. And if students come in for a hug to you, you know, of course, you don't want to turn them away, push them away, but just a quick hug, you know, side hug, move along. There's like a fuzzy fine line, but just not being the one to start it, you know? Show your students love in a respectful way. All right, not meeting students outside of school or transporting them in your car. That's another line that you shouldn't cross. Not dispensing medication. So if a student has a medication that they need, they'll often have it in the school nurse's office, and you'll just remind them to go to the nurse. Every once in a while, I'll have a special case. For example, I had a student that was a type 1 diabetic, and the nurse came and trained me about how to help her get her insulin. So every once in a while, you'll need to help in a different way. That was a really young child, but oftentimes you'll just send them to the school nurse. And then using designated staff restrooms instead of using the student restrooms. Again, just keeping that line really clear. All right, communication boundaries. So not discussing religion or showing favor to one religion over others, This is the establishment clause that's in the First Amendment, which is that separation of church and state. We know that faith is very important, so if you want to, please find a church or a faith community that is in your community, and you can serve in that way, but not sharing about religion in your classroom. Not cursing. So there may be some words in your culture that are okay, that are not okay in your school building, so just be super careful. You don't want a student to go home and tell their parents that you said a bad word, and then you're in trouble with your principal when it was just a mistake. So just be very careful with the words that you say. Don't befriend or engage with students on social media. Just keep that fine line, you know. I actually changed my social media when I was a teacher, so it's not my last name, it's just my first and middle name. It's harder for them to find me. You might want to do something like that too, so it's just harder for them to find you. They will find the strangest things about you online. Only using school-approved channels for interaction. I think that's the safest way to go. Instead of don't give them your phone number. Instead, you can use those channels. There's lots of different apps that you can use to communicate with families. There is an app called Class Dojo that makes it really easy for you to interact. Yeah, that's one good one. Google Classroom, things like that. Yes, and like she said, a lot of times in the beginning of the year there will be a little release that parents will sign, like, oh, it's okay if my student's picture or my child's picture ends up on the school website or something like that. But yeah, be careful about that and respect the privacy of your students and whatever their families want. Again, more with technology boundaries, so not posting inappropriate on social media. I do think just keeping it private is the way to go. And considering, yes, keep it private, not misusing school-issued devices, so keep your laptop that you get from the school, just keep it to school stuff. And then everything you say online can be found and subject to review. Students will find your stuff online. And respect that confidentiality with students' grades, their health information, the records about special education, all of that. It's just very personal. All right. We're going to go through 3 different scenarios. These are based on some things that may have really happened, but what we're going to do is I will read the first one out loud, and then we'll take a few minutes to talk to the people at your table and share about what you think the person did wrong in this situation and how you would handle it differently. Okay, so as far as state testing goes, you play a really important role in maintaining the test security and making sure that it's valid and fair assessment. So, like she said, you'll receive a training at your school where they will talk through what testing looks like. They will go through all the ins and outs. They will actually give you a script, so you're literally just reading the script and following exactly what it says. But take that seriously. All the instruction there, you need to follow it very, very seriously. Here are some do's for state testing. They will talk through everything, keeping your classroom quiet, what students can do when they're done with the test. You will be taught all of this in your school building. And there's lots of no's with state testing, but most importantly, not photocopying the test to pass out as practice. There are lots of other resources you can use instead, and not allowing students to talk during the test too.